In 1950, one out of every two vacuum cleaners sold in America was a Hoover. Half the country trusted one name. Walk into any home from Boston to Los Angeles, and you had a 50% chance of finding a Hoover in the closet. The factory in North Canton, Ohio, ran 24 hours a day with 4,000 workers on 3 shifts, building 10,000 vacuum cleaners every single day. The machines were built so well they lasted 40 years without breaking. A grandmother would buy one in 1952, use it every day until 1992, and it would still run perfectly. Then in November 2006, a company from Hong Kong bought Hoover for $107 million. 13 months later, they closed the factory and fired all 4,000 workers with 60-day notices. The building that had run continuously for 99 years went dark and silent in just 18 months. Today, you can still buy a vacuum with the Hoover name on it at Walmart for $79. They are made in China, and they break within 2 years. This is the story of how machines built to last 40 years got replaced by disposable garbage that breaks in 2. How workers who spent their entire lives building quality got fired by executives in Hong Kong who never learned their names and never visited the town they destroyed. And how a place called North Canton, Ohio, built everything around one factory and learned the hard way that 100 years of loyalty means absolutely nothing to people who only see workers as numbers on a spreadsheet. Canton, Ohio, 1907. Murray Spangler is 60 years old and he cannot breathe. Every night he works as a janitor at Zollinger's department store, sweeping floors with a broom for 8 hours. The dust kicks up in thick clouds and gets in his lungs. Spangler has asthma, and every night makes it worse. He wakes up wheezing, chest tight, coughing until his ribs hurt. He is too old to find different work and too broke to quit, so he tries to fix the problem himself. After his shift ends, he goes back to his rented room and starts building something. He is not an engineer. He just knows he needs a machine that sucks up dust instead of pushing it around. He finds an old fan motor from a broken sewing machine and nails it to a wooden soapbox. He attaches a broom handle so he can push it and stitches a pillowcase to the back to catch the dust. The whole thing looks insane, held together with tape and hope. But when he turns it on and pushes it across the floor, the dust disappears into the pillowcase instead of flying into his face. He empties the bag and stares at the pile of filth that came out of a floor he thought was clean. His asthma stops getting worse. For the first time in months, he can breathe at work. Spangler knows this could be worth something. He builds a few more by hand and starts asking people for money to manufacture them. Nobody wants to invest. They laugh at his soapbox contraption. Vacuum cleaners already exist, they tell him. Big machines that cost as much as a car, powered by gasoline, require 2 people to operate. Those are real vacuum cleaners. Spangler's invention looks like a toy. He gets rejected again and again until he runs out of people to ask, but he has one connection left. His cousin Susan is married to William Hoover. Hoover owns a factory in North Canton that makes leather goods, horse collars, saddles, harnesses, equipment for horses and buggies. Business has been good for decades. But William Hoover sees what is coming. Henry Ford just started mass-producing automobiles. The Model T is selling to regular people, not just rich men. In 10 years, nobody will own horses. Everything Hoover manufactures will be worthless. He needs a new product, and he needs it now. In October 1908, Spangler shows up at the Hoover house with his soapbox machine. Susan thinks it looks ridiculous until he plugs it in and runs it over her carpet. The difference is immediate. The carpet looks cleaner than it has in years. One person, one machine, no gasoline, no assistant. Just plug it in and push. William Hoover sees it right away. This can go into every home in America. He buys the patent from Spangler in November 1908 for $100, cash plus a promise to pay him for every machine sold. Then Hoover makes the smartest decision of his life. He does not start a new company. He shuts down his leather factory and converts the entire building into a vacuum factory. The workers who were stitching saddles start assembling vacuum cleaners. The first Hoover goes on sale in December 1908 for $60. By the end of 1909, he has sold 3,600 machines. Not a fortune, but enough to prove it works. Murray Spangler gets his payments and watches his invention spread across the country, but he never gets rich. In 1915, he dies of pneumonia at 68 years old in the same rented room where he built the first one. By then, Hoover is a household name. William Hoover understands something most business owners miss. You cannot just make a better product and wait for people to buy it. You have to show them what they are missing. In 1910, he starts hiring men to go door to door across America. Hundreds of them, then thousands. Each man carries a Hoover vacuum and a white bedsheet. The pitch is simple. Let me clean one room of your house for free. Most women say no at first, but some are curious enough to let him try. The salesman picks the dirtiest carpet in the house, usually the living room or dining room where there is the most foot traffic. He vacuums a small section, maybe 10 square feet, while the woman watches. Then he does something brilliant. He takes the dust bag off the machine, walks outside to the front lawn, and dumps everything onto that white bed sheet. Pounds of dust and dirt pour out onto the white fabric. Filth that has been ground into the carpet for months or years. Dirt that is invisible until you see it piled up in the sunlight. Women stand there staring at it. They thought their houses were clean. They have been sweeping and beating rugs for hours every week, and it never touched this dirt hiding in the carpet. The salesman does not have to say anything. The white sheet does all the talking. More than half the time, the woman buys a Hoover right there. 1 out of every 2 demonstrations ends with a sale. By 1915, Hoover has 5,000 salesmen working across the country, knocking on doors, dumping dirt on white sheets, writing up contracts. But Hoover adds one more thing that changes how Americans buy products: the 10-day free trial. Take the vacuum home, use it for 10 days, and if you do not love it, bring it back and get all your money back with no questions asked. This is radical in 1910, when most stores will not take anything back once you buy it. But Hoover knows his product. Once you use it for a week, you will never give it back. Out of every 100 people who take a Hoover home on trial, 97 keep it. They use it for a few days, see how much dirt it pulls out, and realize they cannot go back to brooms. By 1919, the factory in North Canton is running at full capacity with over 1,000 workers. Through the 1920s, the factory keeps expanding. What started as one converted building becomes a complex of structures covering multiple city blocks. Employment goes from 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000. By 1930, over 3,000 people work at Hoover. North Canton is not owned by Hoover like some company towns, but everyone knows Hoover is the town. Almost every family has someone working at the factory. You graduate high school, you try to get hired at Hoover. The pay is good, the benefits are better than most factories, the work is steady. Hoover does not just give people jobs, they support the whole town. They sponsor the local baseball team and build a community center where families can have dances and meetings. Every 4th of July, Hoover pays for a big celebration with free food and fireworks for everyone. When schools need new equipment, Hoover writes the check. It is not charity, it is smart business. Workers who feel taken care of build better products. And they do build better products. Inside the factory, there is real pride in the work. These are not just vacuum cleaners, these are Hoovers. Machines that will last for decades. Every single one gets tested before it leaves the building. Workers check the frame for any defects and run the motor to make sure it meets standards. If something is not perfect, it does not ship. The assembly line moves at a steady pace, but never rushed. Building a Hoover takes time because it is built to last. The machines are heavy, solid metal, simple mechanical systems that almost never fail. When something does break, you can fix it. Hoover does not need customers to keep buying new ones. They make money because everyone wants one and they produce millions. A family buys a Hoover in 1925 and uses it until 1955, 30 years of daily use. And it still runs perfectly. Then comes October 1929 and the stock market crashes. The Great Depression destroys the economy. Banks fail, factories close, millions lose their jobs. But Hoover survives. Sales drop, but they do not collapse. Why? Because vacuum cleaners are not luxuries. They are necessities. A family that cannot afford new furniture or a new car can still keep their house clean. A Hoover is an investment that pays for itself in years of service. While cities like Detroit and Pittsburgh see mass layoffs and closed factories, North Canton keeps working. Hoover keeps building vacuums. Employment stays mostly steady. Workers who keep their paychecks through the worst economic disaster in history remember that. They stay at Hoover for life. When their sons turn 18, they bring them to the factory. By 1940, over 3,500 people work there. World War II comes and goes. Hoover keeps making vacuums for American homes, while other factories switch to war production. By 1946, soldiers are coming home, getting married, moving to new houses in the suburbs. The baby boom starts, and with it, an explosion in appliance demand. Every new house needs a refrigerator, stove, washing machine, and vacuum cleaner. The 1950s are the best years Hoover will ever see. By 1952, the factory employs 4,000 workers, running 3 shifts, 24 hours a day. The building never stops. The sound of motors being tested echoes through the plant at 3 in the morning, just like it does at 3 in the afternoon. They build over 10,000 vacuum cleaners every single day, 70,000 a week, 3.5 million a year. And they still cannot make them fast enough. Everyone wants one. By 1955, over half of all vacuum cleaners sold in America are Hoovers. 1 out of every 2. Walk into any house from Boston to Los Angeles, and there is a 50% chance you will find a Hoover in the closet. The product line expands. Upright models for thick carpets, canister models for hardwood floors, small handheld units for cars and furniture, different attachments for every surface. Hoover advertises on television, in magazines, on the radio. But the real reason people buy Hoovers is not the advertising. It is because the machines do not break. A family buys one in 1952, uses it every day for 20 years, and it runs like new. When their daughter moves out in 1972, she takes the Hoover with her. One machine serving 2 generations is completely normal. That kind of quality builds trust no advertisement can match. People buy Hoover because Hoover does not fail. In North Canton, the factory is the center of everything. Workers make solid middle-class wages. They buy houses, cars, raise families. The town population grows. New schools get built. Main Street is packed with restaurants and shops. Everything runs on the rhythm of the factory. 3 shifts changing, thousands of men clocking in and out, paychecks flowing into every business in town. As long as the factory runs, North Canton thrives. This is the peak. 4,000 workers, half the market, machines that last 40 years. This is the moment when it seems like nothing could ever go wrong. The 1970s arrive, and everything starts changing. Companies from Europe start selling vacuums in America. Electrolux from Sweden, Miele from Germany. These are not cheap knockoffs. They are well-built machines. Japanese companies start entering the market too. Panasonic, Sharp, Sanyo. They already took over televisions and radios. Now they want appliances. Eureka, an American competitor, starts selling cheaper vacuums and taking market share. And when inflation is eating into family budgets, price starts to matter more than quality. Hoover makes a decision that will slowly kill them. Instead of innovating and making better products, they decide to cut costs. They start using cheaper plastic parts instead of metal. They simplify the internal mechanisms to save money. They pressure suppliers to lower prices. The quality starts slipping, not all at once, gradually. A Hoover bought in 1978 is not built the same way as one bought in 1958. The newer machines are lighter, which sounds good until you realize it means cheaper materials. They are louder. They do not last as long. And people notice. A woman whose mother's 1962 Hoover still runs perfectly buys a new Hoover in 1978 and watches it die in 5 years. She cannot understand it. Hoover built its reputation on machines that never die. Now they are building machines that do. Customers start asking what happened to Hoover quality. Why did my mother's vacuum last 30 years but mine died in 5? Hoover does not have a good answer. They keep advertising themselves as the premium brand while quietly making the product worse. Their market share starts dropping. Slowly at first, then faster. By the late 1970s, Hoover has about 40% of the market, down from 50% 10 years earlier. That 10% drop does not feel catastrophic, but it is a warning sign painted in red. Management does not see it. They think the Hoover name will protect them. They are wrong. By 1985, Hoover gets sold. A company called Chicago Pacific buys them. For the first time in 77 years, the Hoover family does not control the company. Workers feel the difference immediately. Chicago Pacific does not care about North Canton. They care about profits. 4 years later, in 1989, Maytag buys Hoover for $325 million. Maytag is a respected American appliance company. Their commercials feature the lonely Maytag repairman, who has nothing to do because Maytag products never break. Workers hope that culture will save Hoover. Maytag promises to keep North Canton open. They promise to invest in the brand. Workers want to believe it. But Maytag is struggling too. They are fighting Whirlpool and General Electric, competing with imports, margins shrinking. When corporations struggle, they cut. Production shifts. Some models now built at Maytag's Texas facilities. Components sourced from Mexico. North Canton is still running, but it is not making everything anymore. Employment starts dropping, not through mass layoffs, through attrition. Workers retire and do not get replaced. Shifts get scaled back. By the early 1990s, 2,500 workers are left. By the late 1990s, 1,500. The workers who stay take pay cuts to keep the plant open. Union negotiations turn hostile. Management demands concessions. The union fights back, but they are negotiating from weakness. If the plant closes, everyone loses. So they give up wages. Then they give up benefits. Then they give up more. Meanwhile, in England, a man named James Dyson has been working for years on something Hoover will regret ignoring: a bagless vacuum cleaner. Instead of disposable bags that clog and reduce suction, Dyson's cyclonic system uses spinning air to separate dust into a clear bin. You can see it working. You never buy bags. The suction never weakens. Dyson launches in the United Kingdom in 1993. Instant hit. By the late 1990s, he is in America. Hoover's response? Dismissal. People like bags, they say. Who wants to see dirt? They are catastrophically wrong. Customers love bagless. Not having to buy bags saves money. Watching the dirt collect is satisfying. It proves the vacuum is working. Within 5 years, Dyson is stealing market share from everyone. Hoover scrambles with their own bagless models, but they are too late and inferior. Shark enters with aggressive pricing. Roomba introduces robots. The market fragments, innovation accelerates, and Hoover gets left behind. In March 2006, Whirlpool buys Maytag for $2.7 billion. Within weeks, Whirlpool announces they are selling off the vacuum division separately. Then in November 2006, Tektronix Industries emerges as the buyer. Tektronix Industries is a Hong Kong-based company most Americans have never heard of. They are not a manufacturer in the traditional sense. They are brand consolidators. Tektronix Industries already owns Dirt Devil, Vax, Orec. They buy recognizable names, optimize production costs, and extract value. Tektronix Industries pays $107 million for the Hoover brand. Think about that number. Whirlpool just paid $2.7 billion for Maytag. They sold Hoover for less than 4% of that price. The brand that once controlled half the American market, that became a verb in the dictionary, is valued at $107 million. Workers do not need a business degree to decode that message. When a company buys you for that little, they are not buying growth potential. They are buying name recognition to milk. Tektronix Industries announces an evaluation period for North Canton. Translation: we are deciding whether to close you. For 6 months, workers exist in limbo, showing up every day not knowing if it is the last. December 2006. The announcement. North Canton factory will close. All Hoover production moving to Tektronix Industries' existing facilities in Mexico and China. The remaining 1,500 workers will receive 60-day notices. 99 years of continuous operation finished. North Canton explodes. Town meetings pack the community center Hoover built in 1925. Workers give tearful testimonies about 3 generations in their families working the same jobs. The mayor writes desperate letters to Ohio senators. Local news covers it like the disaster it is. None of it matters. Tektronix Industries' math is simple. American workers cost $20 per hour with benefits. Chinese workers cost $2 per hour. Mexican workers cost $4 per hour. North Canton produces vacuums at 5 to 10 times the cost of Tektronix Industries' overseas plants. There is no scenario where keeping it open makes sense on a spreadsheet. The decision is final. Closure. Summer 2007. The last few months are brutal. Workers build vacuums knowing each one could be the last. Men who have been there 40 years train for jobs that do not exist. Fathers and sons who worked side by side try not to think about simultaneous unemployment. Some of these workers started in the 1960s when the factory had 4,000 people and ran at full capacity. They watched it shrink year after year, but always believed it would survive. It does not survive. The last day of production comes in July 2007. Nobody makes a ceremony, no speeches, no photos with the final vacuum. Workers just finish their shift, shut down the machines, clock out, and go home. The factory floor goes silent for the first time since 1908. Over the next 6 months, Tektronix Industries dismantles everything valuable. Equipment is evaluated, crated, shipped to Mexico and China. Anything obsolete gets sold for scrap. The building stays standing but gutted. North Canton's economy does not decline. It collapses. 1,500 direct jobs vanish, but that is just the beginning. Every business depends on Hoover paychecks. Restaurants where workers ate lunch go from packed to empty. Bars where they stopped after shift close within a year. Gas stations, grocery stores, Main Street shops all see revenues drop 30, 40, 50%. Unemployment spikes, tax revenues plummet, schools and services get cut, property values crater. Why buy a house in a town where the main employer just left? Families who built lives around Hoover paychecks are suddenly underwater on mortgages, homes worth less than they owe. Workers in their 50s and 60s are destroyed. They plan to work another decade and retire with pensions. Now they are too old to attract employers but too young to retire. Their skills are specific to vacuum manufacturing. Younger workers leave. They move to Texas, North Carolina, Tennessee, anywhere manufacturing still exists. Families relocate, leaving empty houses and abandoned streets. North Canton's population starts a decline that continues for years. From 2007 to 2020, the town loses 15% of its people. After 2007, the Hoover brand continues, but it is a corpse wearing a name tag. Vacuums are made in China, Vietnam, Mexico. Often the same production line makes multiple brands with cosmetic differences. Quality is immediately, obviously different. Amazon reviews turn brutal. Broke after 6 months. Cheap plastic garbage. Terrible suction. Nothing like old Hoovers. One review captures it perfectly. My grandmother's 1967 Hoover still works. I bought this in 2010. It died in 2 years. What happened? What happened was Tektronix Industries' strategy. They are not building vacuums to last 40 years. They are building them to survive just past warranty. Why make a machine that lasts 20 years when you can make one that lasts 3? And force repeat purchases? Prices drop too. Hoovers that cost $300 in 2000 now sell for $79.99 at Walmart. They look like bargains until they break. Market share continues eroding. Dyson dominates premium. Shark owns mid-range. Roomba creates an entirely new category. By 2020, Hoover's market share drops to single digits, less than 10%, down from 50% at peak. But here is the strange, cruel irony. The verb survives. In the United Kingdom and Commonwealth countries, people still say hoovering. People who own Dysons say they are going to hoover the carpet. The word is embedded in British English so deeply it will probably never disappear. The word outlived the company's relevance. Hoover achieved the ultimate branding success, entered the dictionary, became a verb. And it meant nothing when the product turned to garbage. Drive through North Canton today on State Route 43, turn onto Commerce Avenue, and you will find it. The old Hoover factory, parts still standing. Other sections demolished, leaving concrete slabs. Some remaining buildings converted to storage or leased to small industrial tenants. Most of it empty. Windows broken, some boarded, others open to weather. Weeds grow through parking lot cracks. Chain link fencing surrounds the perimeter with faded no trespassing signs. There is a for sale sign bleached nearly white by sun. No Hoover signage visible. Removed or faded beyond recognition. Only locals know what this building was. Younger residents under 30 have no connection. Older residents remember. When everyone worked at Hoover. When the factory ran 3 shifts. When production sounds carried for blocks. When North Canton was thriving. When Main Street was packed. When families raised kids on single Hoover paychecks. That is gone. The town has tried reinventing itself. Some new businesses. Light manufacturing. A distribution center employing a few hundred. It is not the same. Population declined 15% since 2007, has not recovered. Median income dropped, stagnated. Main Street has empty storefronts with soap-painted windows. The community center Hoover built in 1925 still stands, still hosts events, but it is underfunded and aging. The baseball field where the Hoover Redbirds played hosts youth leagues, but the stands are weathered and empty. There is a historical marker near the factory site. Small bronze plaque reading, Site of Hoover Company Factory, 1908 to 2007. For nearly a century, this facility produced millions of vacuum cleaners and employed thousands of North Canton residents. The Hoover name became synonymous with home cleaning worldwide. 40 words, summarizing 99 years. Nobody stops to read it. The factory is a monument to what was, a ruin in slow decay. The silence is what hits you standing outside the fence. No machines, no trucks, no workers' voices, just wind and birds and occasional cars driving past. First lesson: brand names can become verbs, but verbs cannot save dying companies. Hoover achieved something only a handful of brands accomplish. The name became the action. People did not vacuum, they hoovered. That word entered dictionaries, embedded itself in British English, achieved cultural immortality. But linguistic triumph did not protect Hoover when their products stopped being best. When Dyson introduced bagless technology and Hoover called it a gimmick, they were betting on name recognition instead of innovation. A strong brand buys you time. It cushions against competition, but it does not buy forever. The moment your product falls behind, loyalty erodes fast. Hoover spent the 1970s and 1980s cutting costs and degrading quality while coasting on reputation. By the time they tried innovating, Dyson owned premium, Shark owned mid-range, and Hoover was just another cheap option at Walmart. The verb survived. People still say Hoover, but they say it while using Dysons, Sharks, Roombas. The word outlived the company's relevance. Hoover won the ultimate branding victory, entered the language itself, and it meant nothing when the product turned to garbage. Cultural penetration is not business sustainability. The verb is immortal. The company is dead. Second lesson: when a factory owns a town, the town dies with the factory. For 99 years, North Canton's identity was Hoover. 3 generations of families worked there. The company sponsored schools, sports teams, community celebrations. When Hoover closed in 2007, it did not just eliminate 1,500 jobs, it eliminated the foundation of the local economy. Every restaurant, every shop, every service business depended on Hoover paychecks. When those paychecks stopped, the town collapsed like dominoes. Tax revenues plummeted. Property values crashed 30%. Unemployment spiked. People left. Population declined 15%, has not recovered. This is the hidden cost of single-employer towns. When the factory closes, there is no backup, no diversified economy, no other industry to absorb workers. The entire community is built on one foundation. Remove it, everything falls. The people who built lives around Hoover were betrayed not by the Hoover family who created the company, but by Tektronic Industries, a Hong Kong corporation that bought the brand, closed the factory, and moved on. Community is liability. Legacy is a line item. When math says close, you close. Third lesson: corporate ownership treats legacy like a balance sheet. William Hoover built a factory in North Canton because that is where he lived. Workers were his neighbors. He saw them at church, at stores, at town events. When Maytag bought Hoover in 1989, that connection severed. When Tektronic Industries bought Hoover from Whirlpool in 2006, it severed completely. Tektronic Industries executives did not live in North Canton, did not know anyone at the factory, did not care. They looked at spreadsheets. American labor, $20 per hour. Chinese labor, $2 per hour. Close the factory, move production, boost margins. It is just business. But here is what spreadsheets do not capture. The factory was not just producing vacuums. It was sustaining community. Workers were not just labor costs. They were families with mortgages, kids in schools, decades of expertise. When you close a factory operating 99 years, you are not just eliminating jobs. You are destroying accumulated knowledge, severing multi-generational employment, gutting a town's identity. None of that shows on balance sheets. When companies are owned by people who live in the community, they think long-term. But when companies are owned by distant corporations viewing them as portfolio assets, every decision is quarterly earnings. Legacy does not matter. Community does not matter. Only the number at the bottom matters. Tektronic Industries bought Hoover for $107 million, closed the factory, moved production to China, probably made their money back in 3 years. For them, successful investment. For North Canton, catastrophe. The town still has not recovered from 17 years later. The Hoover Company factory in North Canton, Ohio, operated for 99 years, from 1908 to 2007. 3 generations built vacuum cleaners that lasted longer than marriages. Machines so durable grandmothers passed them down like wedding silver, still running after 40 years. Then a company in Hong Kong bought the brand for $107 million, shut the factory, and moved production overseas. Today you can still buy a Hoover. Walmart sells them for $79.99, stacked near cleaning supplies. They are made in China, cheap plastic, motors that sound like angry wasps. They break in 2 years if you are lucky. The brand that became a verb, that entered the dictionary, that defined American home cleaning for half a century, is now disposable junk on the bottom shelf. The factory where they used to be made sits empty in North Canton. Some buildings torn down, others vacant, windows broken, weeds through pavement. Workers are gone, scattered to other states, other jobs, other lives. The town is still trying to recover from losing the industry that defined it for a century. And the word Hoover survives in English, spoken by millions who have no idea the company has been gutted. The verb outlived the empire. The ghost outlived the body. In a British living room right now, someone is saying they need to hoover the carpet, and they have no idea what that word used to mean. The Hoover factory is silent. The brand is hollow. But the word lives on, permanent and meaningless, like a gravestone in a language